solar eclipse is going to not be visible from here. So here,
the same way I can't.
yeah, I'm going to shake it.
I can't just
Yeah, 3 years ago, I bought there's a place on the line that sells these little paper glasses, sunglasses. Literally, come on and you can stare at the sun. Will not look at Oh, yeah, I got a whole box of 15 of them. So, and something that filled out something wrong with the order. Charged me over So I told Sandra, I said, I got a perfect way to do it. This sounds like fun. So we're going to go. It's Monday. That's what it's about. Like I said, you won't be able to see it from here. Well, from April 6th to April 15th. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm glad
I'll be
you
in
like that. Yeah, I don't usually chew on chocolate too. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I usually don't the whole thing. Big 6 cakes. Okay, I would like to go to
We're supposed to watch these monitors, 40 to 50 of them. Well, it turned out, I saw this
Did you take my dad's
no schedules for maintenance. Police were all over the place. They stopped. Yeah. The drive-through. Those are available. But they have cameras on every side.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good morning. Looks like we got a larger crowd here this morning. And good morning to all of you here. Good morning to visitors. Good morning to those on Zoom. And good morning or afternoon or whenever to those on YouTube. You can watch anytime on YouTube. All right, this is the last lesson of the quarter, so this is the last lesson of this series, Faith That Pleases God. And we're doing faith in God's purpose. And the book there is Habakkuk. I'm glad, as I was working on this, I noticed something doesn't look right, and I had Habakkuk spelled wrong. Had the 1K and then the 2Ks. It's been really embarrassing to do a lesson on Habakkuk and you spelled his name wrong. So that is spelled correctly. So this is lesson 13 on faith that pleases God. And I think next quarter is also on faith, isn't it, Gordon?
Yes,
Gordon's going to be doing the next 2 lessons. We started God's law is love. This quarter is faith. Next quarter is faith. And then if we finish this, what goes along? Love, faith, hope. Next one is on hope if we do it. But I don't know if we're going to do that one. So not up to me. All right. Let's see. We got a new screen up there and it's overflowing. So try to... The book of Habakkuk gives us virtually no personal information regarding the prophet. Now, if you got a handout here, the handout gives us no personal information on Habakkuk also. So the two of them, it's mostly the placement of the book, observations, there's 3, and then most of it's actually about Babylonia, Nebuchadnezzar. And you see at the bottom right, they've got a filler here, large font. So not much information there. Habakkuk is one of 12 books, what we call the minor prophets. Of course, the one we know the most about is Jonah, right? Uh-huh. The one we know the least about is the other 12. Probably a tie. What do you know about Obadiah or Haggai? Probably not too much. So the book gives us no personal information, but clues about the book. It lets us know that the Chaldeans are coming soon. So a little bit down now before 605. Babylonian Empire becomes a regional superpower. And about 605 BC when they overtake the Assyrians, which had ruled the area. And then Babylonian forces invade Judah and overthrow its king. And that's prophesied in Habakkuk 1 verse 6 when the Lord tells Habakkuk, I have a plan. Just wait for it. But Habakkuk in tradition. There is tradition. Remember when we had Isaiah about him being sawed into tradition. You know, Paul being beheaded, Peter being, crucified upside down, all those would come from tradition. Habakkuk in tradition. There's the Habakkuk Mausoleum. And it's in Iran. Does that sound a little puzzling? That it would be there. But that's where it is. The tradition that links Habakkuk to Iran claims that he was captured by the Babylonians at the temple. They caught him there. Maybe he was trying to resist them. Taken back to Babylon as a prisoner. And then when Cyrus took over, he released him. And then he did not go back to Israel, but instead he went to Ecbatana in the province of Media. The building there is about 40 feet tall, and it was built in the 13th century. It was built over an earlier tomb dedicated to Habakkuk. And it's in Iran, which is kind of interesting because in addition to the Jews, the Shiite Muslims also revere Habakkuk. So that's how he's in Iran. Now that Ecbatana is mentioned in Ezra, Ecbatana was one of 4 capitals of the Persian Empire. Remember in Ezra they're released, and Cyrus gave them a mandate that they could rebuild the temple. They get back, and the people there said, no, you can't rebuild this thing. They say, but Cyrus said we could. So they petitioned to Darius the king, and then they made a search in the archives, and then they found it there at Ecbatana in the province of Media. So there it is right there. There's Babylon. You can see Ecbatana is in the mountains, and that's why it was the summer capital. It's at an elevation of 6,300 feet. So it's about the same elevation as Colorado Springs. And then that mausoleum is close to inside that circle there. So the man and his times. He served during the reign of King Jehoiakim. That's toward the end of the divided kingdom there, before the first deportation in 605. So he was a contemporary of the prophet Jeremiah. So they were both in Judah. And there we see Jehoiakim there, number 18. And how was he? Good king, bad king? Wicked. He was a wicked king. And if the king is wicked, you expect much more from the people. Can you hear me now? Any of you recognize that?
Yes.
Verizon, about 2000. Can you hear me now? The guy was saying that, you know. Did you lose signal? Of course, this was 2002. 22 years later, of course, we got better 5G and everything, so that's a little better. But what happens when God doesn't answer our call? We'll call in and say, God, can you hear me now? That's what Habakkuk was doing. When a phone call seems to drop out, you might ask yourself, can you hear me now? The most exasperating thing I ever had with that was when I was on hold for 58 minutes and they couldn't hear me.
Yeah, and they play that irritating music.
Yeah, and your call is important to us. Please stay on the line. We will be with you shortly. And the purpose of the call was make an appointment for the COVID vaccine when it first came out. You couldn't do it online. You had to call. You had to find out who to call. I got on at 6 a.m. as soon as they opened, and it took an hour to get on. Habakkuk asked his own version, can you hear me now? He waited, and the Lord actually responds to him. But would the answer be what he wanted to hear? There's a saying, if you don't want to hear the answer, don't ask the question, right? Well, he asked. The agony of waiting. This is from the Psalms. These Psalm of David. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. Unfortunately, that the border is covering that. It looks like the art take courage. Wait for the Lord. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when men succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. You know, you wonder, Lord, why do the righteous fail and the wicked prosper? Why do bad things happen to good people, and why do good things happen to bad people? What does that remind you of? Who had to wait? Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that so often God just asks his prophets to give their testimony and to be a witness to whatever is transpiring in the nation or in the area. And Habakkuk is a classic example him being a witness. In fact, he said, why do you allow me to see such things?
Yeah, it's, poor him. I have to look at this. But we got Noah there. He had to wait, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Very familiar story. How long were Noah and his family in the ark?
Over a year.
Over a year. Right. That's a long time. I've seen these ads for princess cruises around the world in a year. Yeah. But you get off and you get good food and everything. But like you said, it's over a year. He got on the 600th year, 2nd month, and 17th day of Noah's life. And then the 2nd month, 27th day, 601st year. So over a year they were on there. It said the rain stopped after 150 days, but then it had to go down. So over 1 year. Remember Simeon?
Yes.
Told he was waiting for the consolation of the Lord, having to wait. But he was told, hey, you're not going to die until you see it. So he knows he's going to at least live till he sees that. Waiting for the consolation. Now this one's interesting. They cried out with a loud voice, O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? So who's crying out here? Yeah. They're not even alive, are they? They're in heaven. They should be rejoicing, shouldn't they? But they're concerned about their fellow people. These died. They gave their blood witnessing for the Lord. So, how are we to wait for the Lord? We have an assignment, but I'm not going to make you do it. Wait. I'm supposed to write this on a whiteboard, and then you're supposed to give stuff to go with each of the letters.
Okay. All right.
But I don't think that would go too well. So, I'm going to do it for you. And if you disagree, or if you have any other ones. But W, you can't use wait because that would be cheating. W, watch without anxiety. We're often told to watch and pray. Continue to pray and watch for an answer. Pray without ceasing. Don't be anxious. Don't be nervous. We talked Wednesday night about stress, about being anxious. Don't be anxious and nervous when it does not seem to happen according to your own reasoning, your own timing. Jesus said, Sermon on the Mount, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. A, act on what you know to do. So life goes on while you're waiting, doesn't it? You don't just, sit down and I'm not going to do anything till I get an answer. We must go about our normal life while we're waiting. Be cautious of prayer that is nothing more than sanctified worry. Woe is me, Lord, woe is me. What are you going to do to help me? This is when we find ourselves not really praying to God, but rehearsing our problem over and over again in our own minds in the guise of prayer. Often it's simply best to pray a short prayer, leaving the care with the Lord and then continuing with our business of the day, trusting that God will do the work that we can't do. Don't fret over things you can't do anything about. Instruct yourself in the things of the Lord, of God. Spend time seeking God while you're waiting. This is not a time to complain, but to be still and know that He is God. He'll take care of it. Keep a journal. Any of you keep a journal, a prayer journal, Bible journal? Especially through very trying times, and write down everything that God has taught you. This is a prime blessing of waiting. You'll grow closer to God. T, trust God. God is omniscient, all powerful, all wise, all loving, and He showers that love on us. Trust Him. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. Your paths. Now this is progression of themes in Habakkuk. There's over 200 themes in the Bible. And this is Habakkuk 1, right there. Now themes, there's 5 columns there. First column, Habakkuk complaining. Second column, the Lord responds. Third column, Habakkuk complaining again. Fourth column is chapter 2, the Lord responds. And fifth column is Habakkuk not complaining. Not complaining. The red is negative. Where do you see a lot of negative? First chapter.
Yes.
Then not so much in the second. And then in the third, look what we got in the third. We got joy. We got music. The third chapter of Habakkuk is actually a prayer of Habakkuk. And it's also a psalm. A psalm. And third chapter, first chapter, first verse, third chapter, first verse are the only places in the Bible where we have the name Habakkuk. And we will see why he's also mentioned in chapter 3, verse 1. Book of Habakkuk is a conversation between the prophet and the Lord. Generally, you have the prophet speaking to the people about the Lord. In Habakkuk, you got the Lord, you got the prophet speaking to the Lord about the people. And he's not happy with the people. He's not happy with what they're doing. He's not happy with what he's having to witness. There's 2 sections in Habakkuk. Questions to the Lord. That's the first and third column we had there. And then followed by the Lord's answers. That's the second and fourth column on the previous slide. Habakkuk expressed discontent to the Lord that the Lord had seemingly not heard the call for the correction of sin. Habakkuk is upset with sin. Generally, well, it is the Lord also, but Habakkuk is upset with him, and he's complaining to the Lord. He doesn't like what he's seeing. He doesn't like what the people are doing around him. The Lord answered that he was going to do something. He was going to use the Babylonians, or the Chaldeans as they're called, to punish Judah and Jerusalem. But now this confused Habakkuk. Lord, the Chaldeans are worse than we are. I've heard about them. You know, they haven't come yet, but he's heard, you know, they're coming. The Chaldeans are coming. Why would you use people worse than us to discipline us? That doesn't make any sense, Lord. Okay, here is something strange or something unusual, where this is Jeremiah, you know, same time frame as Habakkuk, where Jeremiah, this is during the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, son of Josiah, that says that the Lord has given all the lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant. The king of the Babylonians is his servant. The king of the Judeans is not his servant. Remember, how was he described on that listing of kings? Wicked. Wicked man. So, book of Habakkuk. The theme of the book, evil may seem triumphant, which it did to Habakkuk, but God is on the throne and deals with evil in his own time, his own way. Written by Habakkuk, we don't know much about him. He prophesied in Judah about the same time as Jeremiah, from about 620 to 600 BC. I would put 605 BC because that's when the Babylonians took over. So about that time frame. And then here's a timeline with 612 Babylonians that conquered Nineveh. So they're taking over now. And then Babylon defeats Assyria and Egypt at the Battle of Carchemish. Bad news for Judah. Judah had an alliance with Assyria and Egypt to protect them. They get defeated. Then right after that, Nebuchadnezzar invades Judah and takes exiles into Babylon. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Judeans, they go against the person they put in charge. They rebel. Nebuchadnezzar comes back again, not happy. He besieges Jerusalem a second time, takes Jehoiakim prison along with some other exiles, including Ezekiel. And then Jerusalem and the exiles are taken to Babylon. 586, temple is destroyed. And this is probably when Habakkuk is taken into exile until he's freed by Cyrus. Until they're all freed by Cyrus. And then there's that where Judah's allies are defeated by the Babylonians. So here's the outline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These correspond to the 5 columns we had in a previous slide. Habakkuk's complaints, 1 and 3. God's answers, 2 and 4. And then Habakkuk's prayer / psalm. 3rd chapter is number 5 on the outline. The oracle that Habakkuk the prophet saw. So these will be from the ESV large print edition, okay? Oracle that he saw. Some of you may have burden there. I think ESV, like NASB, some have burden that the prophet saw. So it would have been a vision, I guess. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help? And you will not hear or cry to you violence, and you will not save. Almost sounds like what the souls were saying in Revelation, doesn't it?
Yes.
How long till you avenge our blood from those on the earth? So this is Habakkuk's complaint. Why do you make me see iniquity? Why do you idly look at wrong? What's worse, seeing iniquity or being the victim of iniquity? Both are bad, aren't they? Destruction and violence are before me. Okay. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed. They have the law, don't they? But what good is the law if the king is wicked? The king doesn't follow the law. Justice never goes forth, for the wicked surround the righteous. The wicked includes the king. They surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted. Jeremiah, contemporary of Habakkuk, and he has a complaint. Righteous are you, O Lord, when I complain to you. Yet I would plead my case before you. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all who are treacherous thrive? Why do good things happen to bad people? Why do bad things happen to good people? So Jeremiah and Habakkuk, they're on the same page here, complaining to the Lord about the people. Is it okay to question God's actions or his apparent actions or inactions? What do you think?
Job did.
Job? What was Abraham's reaction when God told him he's going to destroy Sodom?
Bargain.
What?
He bargained with him.
Yes.
Negotiated.
You're going to destroy the righteous along with the wicked? You know, he did have relatives living there, didn't he? His nephew Lot, his wife. Is it okay to question? It depends. When Gabriel came to Zechariah and Mary, both of them questioned, didn't they? What happened to Zechariah? He couldn't talk, well, could he, till a child was born. What happened to Mary? Nothing. Mary wanted to know, well, how's this, you know, how are you going to do this? And Zechariah apparently questioning, well, I don't, you know, almost like Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah.
It doesn't totally laugh, but, you know, he didn't believe him.
You see that even in God opening and closing the wombs of certain women. And the feelings that you read about are raw. The pain, the feeling that, why am I not being blessed? And then God does something.
Yeah.
Changes
Even
the person.
Even Moses questioned, didn't he? When they were out in the wilderness, God says, Moses, I'm going to get rid of all these and I'll start over again with you. We'll do a new Noah here. You'll be the new Noah. But Moses said, Lord, if you do that to us, what are the nations going to say? You brought your people out of Egypt just to kill them? So he convinced God not to do that. Okay, so Habakkuk did not hold back asking his questions. Neither did Jeremiah, did he? They both asked questions.
Warner, one of the things I find interesting, God knew that they were going to question. He knows it all.
Mhm.
And maybe it was allowed to be written for our benefit.
Yeah.
Because God knew that there are certain circumstances when you can question and certain circumstances when you can't.
Well, if you don't question anything, then what is your interest in? Well, I don't care. You can do whatever you want, you know. Well, you want to question. As long as you don't question, in that previous slide, as long as you do not question God's justice. There are some places there, Job 40, verse 8, Ezekiel 18, and Jeremiah, where, you know, questioning God's justice. Question if he's a just God. You don't do that.
There's also Jonah.
Jonah?
But he was mad that God had justice.
Yeah. He sat down under that tree, didn't he? He had some shade. And God sent that worm and the thing. And God says, you know, you're mad because this tree died, but you're not concerned about the souls of 120,000 people. And God says he's also concerned about the animals, plus all the animals who live there. You're not worried about them, you're worried about your own physical comfort. And unlike Habakkuk here, Jonah never seems to turn around, does he? At least in the book. So he waits for an answer. Why is waiting difficult?
Because we're impatient.
What's that?
We're impatient and want an answer now.
We're impatient. We want an answer now.
Lord, give me patience and give it to me now.
Yeah, give it to me now. Waiting is difficult. I'm hungry. I go to the freezer. There's a Stouffer's frozen lasagna. I look at the instructions. One is preheat oven to 350 degrees. Stick it in there for 50 minutes. The other one's a microwave instructions. 8 minutes, I can have it. Well, about 10 times out of 10, I'll do the I will admit that the oven one tastes better. But the microwave one, a lot faster.
So you choose your sacrifice.
Yes. When was a time that you were unhappy because you had to wait? I don't think any of us had that, did we? Any times you have to wait? You think of like medical tests. Well, we won't get this for a couple weeks.
When our daughter was
Yeah.
dying of leukemia.
Yeah. Or you need to make an appointment with this specialist, and you call them, well, we can get you in 6 weeks. So there's a lot of times we have to wait, and it's not anything that makes us happy. Was there ever a time when waiting resulted in something good? I want to buy such and such. Well, I don't want to do it. And then, hey, it's on sale now. I'm glad I waited.
Yeah. Especially if you're waiting for a refund.
Yeah. Waiting for a refund. I filed my taxes online, TurboTax. Filed it. Within an hour, I got your return is accepted by the federal. Took 9 or 10 days before your turn is accepted by the state. So they're taking longer. Look among the nations and see. This is God speaking now. He's waited, getting an answer for, I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told. So God is doing something. You just gotta wait. I'm not telling you everything I'm doing, but I love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm doing a work in your days. There's a couple of passages in Habakkuk that are used in the New Testament. I think there's like a total of 8. Here's one used by Paul. He and Barnabas on their first missionary journey. And they are in Antioch in Pisidia, and he's speaking to the Jews there. This is on a Sabbath day, and they are in the synagogue. So Paul is telling them, beware therefore lest what is said in the prophets, yes, prophets, plural, should come about. Look, you scoffers, be astounded. Look, you scoffers, be astounded and perish, for I am doing a work in your days, a work that you will not believe, even if one tells it to you. Unfortunately, the screen there is in an awkward position there. So here's where Paul is telling the Antiochians, whatever, in Pisidia, about the work that God is doing here for them. For behold, this is God speaking again, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, who march through the breadth of the earth to seize dwellings not their own. So they're going through and they're taking what is not theirs. They're not working for it. They're stealing it. They're plundering. They are dreaded and fearsome. Their justice and dignity go forth from themselves. Are these warm and fuzzies for Habakkuk? Are they only going after the bad people? Or the Babylonians also going to go after the good people? Dreaded and fearsome, their justice and dignity go forth from themselves. Question 1 from Habakkuk. Why do you, O God, tolerate the sins of your people? Doesn't seem fair. God's response. Habakkuk, don't you worry about it. I'm sending the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, and they're going to punish these people. My people. Question 2, how is it fair, God, that you're using less righteous people to punish the more righteous? Us. God says, don't worry about it. The Babylonians will get theirs too. They're not going to be around that long. They're only going to be around 73 years. Well, that's, if you're born right then, 73 years is a long time. They're around, I guess, from, the 612 until 539 BC. 73 years. God's ends it, be quiet. I'm in my holy temple. Let all the earth be silent. That's coming up. His second complaint. Are you not from everlasting, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, you have ordained them as judgment, and you, O rock, have established them for reproof. So we're not going to die. They're just here to discipline us. Well, some will die.
Yes.
Some will be taken into captivity, into exile, and some will remain there. The poorest of the land will remain. Habakkuk waits again. I will take my stand at my watchpost and station myself on the tower and look out to see what he will say to me and what will the answer concerning my complaint. So he's on this watchtower waiting for the answer, anticipating an answer, then anticipating a response to God's answer. So he's on this watchpost. Can you picture that? How about that? Who's that guy? What's he got on? It's a Habakkuk. It's a Habakkuk. He's standing on a tower. What kind of a tower? A watchtower, right? Habakkuk prophesies in Judah before its final destruction. He raises the perplexing issue of why God is silent and why the cries of the faithful seem to go unheard. He stands on a watchtower waiting God's answer. Look, he's looking out. And I don't know why the bird is there. Is that like a little bird told me? The wicked will be dealt with, but in God's way and in God's time. He will even use the more wicked Babylonian nation as his divine instrument of justice. When Habakkuk reacts with shock and dismay, God says, God patiently instructs his messenger until at last the prophet is able to respond in praise and trust, and that's in chapter 3. Now that comes from Habakkuk standing on a watchtower. That's from the keyword learning system, walking through the Bible. And you're supposed to remember the keyword is watchtower. Remember Habakkuk standing on a watchtower waiting for God's response. And these pictures are on every book of the Bible. Yep. They're kind of interesting. For Daniel, they got Daniel asleep and he's counting lions jumping over a fence. So the Lord responds. And the Lord answered me, says, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so he may run who reads it. So he wants it to be plain. He wants it to be enduring. What's he writing it on? Tablets. Enduring. Not just on papyrus or something, which could get torn, wears out. Write this on tablets. For still the vision awaits the appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by his faith. The righteous shall live by faith.
Oh, yeah.
That a famous line?
Yeah. Romans 1.
Paul uses it. You got it right. For in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith for faith, as it is written in Habakkuk, the righteous shall live by faith. Galatians 3. Now it is evident that no one is justified before God by the law, for the righteous shall live by faith. Justification by faith rather than through the law. Also in Hebrews. Hebrews is a little bit different. Yet a little while, and the coming one will come and will not delay, but my righteous one shall live by faith. The Lord's righteous one shall live by faith. Moreover, wine is a traitor, an arrogant man who is never at rest. His greed is as wide as Sheol, that's the land of the dead. Like death, he is never enough. He gathers himself all nations and collects as his own peoples. Now I got the word wine underlined there. This verse didn't really make sense to me. Wine is a traitor, an arrogant one. If you got an ESV, there's a footnote on wine that says that the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls have wealth there. That makes more sense to me. Wealth is a traitor. Wealth goes along with greed. Wealth is a traitor, an arrogant man who is never at rest. And if you have the New Living Translation or New Revised Version, then you will have wealth there. Wealth is a traitor, an arrogant man who is never at rest. His greed is as wide as Sheol. His death, he has never enough. He gathers for himself all nations and collects his own people. So there they have personified wealth and death. Habakkuk 2, 6 through 20 are woes. God pronounces woes on the Chaldeans. They built themselves up at the cost of others, of plundering others. You know, they did not work for what they got. They stole it from others. They pilfered it from others. Ignore justice in building up their own wealth. They do it by stealing. They worship false gods, of course. Bel and Marduk. Their sins will eventually bring judgment upon them. 539 BC, Cyrus, the Medo-Persian, will bring justice upon them. So they won't last very long as far as empires go, but it ends on a good note. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Wouldn't that make a good song?
Definitely.
Wonder why no one ever thought of that.
When you read in Romans 9, around about verses 16 and 17, Paul is writing about Pharaoh. And he says, the scripture says to Pharaoh, I raised you up for this purpose, that I might display my power and my name to you, even though Pharaoh thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
He lost.
I wonder why he didn't stop on the first plague. In what ways can a believer stand watch to receive God's word? And it says, look at Colossians 3, 15 and 17. It says, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms, hymns, spiritual songs, thankfulness in your heart to God. And whatever you do in word or deed, do it in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. And these three verses, I guess, contains, how we are to act and what we are to do.
Yes.
Acting and doing. The red is how we are to act. Peace in your hearts, be thankful, let the word of Christ dwell in you, thankfulness. And then the blue is what we need to do. Teach and admonish one another in all wisdom, singing songs, hymns, spiritual songs. And second, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, and then giving thanks. Have thanks in your heart and give thanks. Watch for God's message, then send it out. Isn't there a song, send out the word, send it out? Habakkuk 3, Habakkuk's prayer in the form of a song. You heard the saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably what? A duck. Habakkuk 3, a psalm. It starts with a prayer, Habakkuk the prophet, according to Shigoniath. Now, this is the second time Habakkuk is mentioned there. It's because it's a psalm, and psalm starts with a title. If you go like Psalm 1, Psalm whatever, it'll have a title, a Psalm of David or a Miskal, and have stuff like that. So a psalm always starts with who did it. Psalm of David, Psalm of Asaph, that sort of thing. That's in the title, and then that's usually followed by a preposition, according to or for or something like that. According to Shigoniath, It's a musical term, unsure what it means. The BDB English lexicon says it's possibly a passionate song with changes of rhythm. Selah, recognize that from Psalm, musical term to lift up or exalt. Found 71 times in Psalms, 3 times in Habakkuk. You see it right there. Stringed instruments, found only in Psalms and Habakkuk, to the choir master. And then it's found in Isaiah. After Isaiah was healed, the Lord said, "You're not going to die." He says, "The Lord will save me and we will play stringed instruments."
Like the lyre.
And then to the choir master, it's found only in Psalms and Habakkuk there, to the choir master with stringed instruments. So we'll end with this right here. So toward the end now, good things. Habakkuk here is saying, though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food, the flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. So, agriculture, everything fails, he still will rejoice in the Lord. Next week, the quarter, examining our faith, and lesson 1, Jude 17 through 25, sustaining our faith. That's it.
Thank you, Warner. Excellent.
You're welcome. Does this work?